So we're going to continue our journey on solving by elimination, looking at part 3. So we started elimination where it was already set up where either the x or the y had the same number but opposite sign, and we can just go ahead and add down. Those would cancel and we could solve for variable. In part 2 we had elimination where either our x and our y did have the same number, but they didn't have opposite signs. So we had to multiply one of either the top of the equation or the bottom equation by -1, which would allow us to have our variables cancel. So now in part 3, we're getting to more of the elimination that you would start to see. These are the ones where neither your x or your y has the same number. So with these, you want to look at your x's and or your y's, and you want to multiply either the top or the bottom equation by a number so that it would cancel. So let's look at the example on the screen. Now, let's look at my y's first. With my y's, I have a 5y and I have a 2y. Well, I can't multiply that 2y by something and get -5. So we're going to go ahead and look at our x's then at this point. Well, with our x's, the top equation has a 2x and the bottom equation has a 1x. What I could do, in order to get opposites, sorry I was yawning, is I can actually multiply this bottom equation by -2. If I multiplied that bottom equation by -2, I would end up getting a -2x, which would be an opposite of that 2x, and then they would cancel. Where you have to be careful is with these. So I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite my top equation. Okay, if I could write it correctly, it would be nice. Plus 5y equals 8. There's the top equation. Now the bottom equation, when I multiply it by 2, I have to multiply every single part by 2, not just the x part. So -2 times 1x would give me my -2x. -2 times 2 would give me -4y. And then -2 times 8 gives me -16. So now I can go ahead and add these down. My x's cancel, so I get 1y, or just y, and 8 plus -16 is -8. So that means my y is equal to -8. So there's one of my variables. Now just like the other ones, I want to pick an equation. It doesn't matter if it's the top or the bottom one. This one I think the original bottom equation is probably the easiest. So it was 1x, which is the same thing as x, plus 2y equals 8. Now remember, you can pick the original top or bottom equation. You can also pick the multiplied new equation, which in this case wouldn't be easy because it has a bunch of negatives. But since my y value is equal to -8, to solve for x, I just have to plug in a -8 in for my y value. Just changing color, equals 8, so that gives me 8, or x, 2 times -8 is -16, equals 8. I have to add 16 to both sides. So in this case I get x is equal to 24. So the only difference in these eliminations is you're going to have to multiply either the x or the y, the top or the bottom equation, by a number in order to get them to cancel. So if you need anything from this screen, go ahead and get it and clear off the screen. Alright, so we're going to look at 3x plus 4y is equal to 6, and 5x plus 2y is equal to -4. Alright, so again, I don't have it already set up where either x's or y's are going to cancel. And they're not the same number either. So in this case, when I look at the x's, again, there's nothing I can multiply 3 by to give me -5. So I look at my y's. I have one that's already a 4, and the other y value is a 2. Well, I could very easily multiply that bottom equation by a -2. If I did that, my top y value stays 4y, and the bottom y value is going to become -4y. And that would give me my opposites. So So my top equation, in this case, is going to stay the same. My bottom equation, I have to multiply each part by -2. So give me a negative 10x, a negative 4y, and a positive 8. So go ahead and add them up. 3 negative 10 is negative 7. My y's cancel, and then 6 and 8, which gives me 14. So if I divide by negative 7, I get x is equal to negative 2. So now I have one of my variables. I just have to pick an equation, either the top or the bottom. I'll plug in the variable, I know. Sorry, I'm tired. So I'm just going to pick the top equation. It doesn't have any negatives in it. It has a little bit larger numbers, but no negatives. So I'm going to plug in negative 2 in for x. So plus 4y equals 6. So 3 times negative 2 gives me negative 6. Plus 4y equals 6. I have to add 6 to both sides. I get 4y equals 12. Divide by 4, and I get my y values equal to 3. So in this case, my x is equal to negative 2, my y is equal to 3. Alright, so we're going to look at just one more example. So if you need anything from the screen, go ahead and get it. Alright, so last one, 6x minus 2y sorry, equals 10, and 3x equals negative 19. Okay, so on this one, I can see with my y values, there's nothing I can multiply negative 2y by in order to get a positive 7. So when I look at my x's, I have a 6x and I have a 3x. I could very easily multiply the bottom equation, in this case, by negative 2. Now, just because all the examples that we've looked at have multiplied by negative 2 does not mean that every equation is going to be that way. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pick one of your equations from your homework and just show you real quick what we would have multiplied by to get you started. Okay, so in this one, once I go through and I multiply bottom equation by negative 2, my top equation in this case is going to stay the same. My bottom equation is going to be negative 6x plus 14y equals positive 38. So now if I add down, I get 12y is equal to 48, so my y value is equal to 4. And again, I just pick an equation, whichever one looks easier. The top one definitely looks easier to me. So 6x minus 2y equals 10. And in this one, I know that my y value is equal to 4. So I'll plug in 4 in for y equals 10. So that's going to give me 6x minus 8 equals 10. If I add 8 to both sides, get 6x is equal to 18, which means my x value has to be equal to 3. Okay, so we've gone through a couple examples, and I didn't actually realize until we got to the third example that they were all multiplying by negative 2. And I do want you to realize that that's not always the case. Oh, sorry. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to clear the screen, and I'm going to show you the first part of your homework, or your first equations from your homework. Now, I'm not going to do all the work for you, but I just want to show you that it's not always by negative 2. Let's see, plus 3y equals negative 14. Okay. Now, in this one, you actually have two options. So, I'm going to go ahead and, that looks like 20 options, sorry. there's two options for this one. And this is one of the unique things about systems. With systems, sometimes you might look at it and go, oh, well, I'm going to multiply bottom equation by 4. And somebody else might go, well, I can multiply the top equation by -2. And you may both be correct. It just depends on the equation. Now, in this one, so I'm going to write this again for both ways. Plus 3y equals -14. And then I'm going to write it again so that we can see this other option. And again, as long as you get your x's or your y's, if you multiply by something to get them to cancel, it's going to work. So with this one, let's say in the one on the left, let's say I wanted my x's to cancel. Well, since I already have a -3x at the top, I could multiply that whole bottom equation by -3. Or sorry, not -3. Let me fix that. +3. Sorry. Darn it. Come on. By +3. Because what that would do is that would give me a 3x down there, and I already have a -3x above it, which would make that work. I could have, in this case, canceled the y values if I wanted to. I had a 3y at the bottom, so I could very easily multiply the top equation by 3, and that would give me a +3y to the top equation. So then my y's would have canceled. So again, both ways would work. It's just up to you on whichever one popped into your head first. Me personally, I probably would have canceled my x's because I would have already seen. Oh, and you know what? It's a -3. Oh, I think Miss Stearns needs a nap. Sorry. Looking over here, that's a +3y. I would have to multiply by -3, sorry, to the top equation. But what I was saying is I probably would have canceled my x's just because I already have a -3, so I would have just had to multiply by a +3. In this one, if I wanted to cancel the y's out, I would have had to multiply the top equation by -3, because that would give me a -3y and then a +3y, which would have canceled. So again, with systems, it's kind of up to you. Try to get comfortable at multiplying. The worst systems get is when you have to multiply the top and the bottom both by a number to get them to cancel. So that's what we're going to get into next week.